Mary, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Hi.
What got you into music?
Oh, I've been singing all my life. I grew up in a skating rink, so I've been introduced to top 40 music, country, and pop from the time I was born. And my parents were really into all types of music, folk music, bluegrass, you name it. So I've had a really interesting musical background.
So did you play an instrument or just sing or both?
I played piano by ear.
Okay.
Never really had any instruction of any type, but picked up a little bit here and there, and just started singing on my own when I was little. And then, of course, had vocal lessons later on in life. So,
so is your family musical?
No.
No.
Not at
you're
all.
the only one. You're the only one that's musical.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, my parents can sing.
Right.
Unfortunately, my poor sister can't hold a tune in a bucket, but she tries.
Right.
So and I always encourage everybody to sing if they love it. It's not about being good at it. It's about loving it. So yeah.
So when's the first time that you sang? Say on stage, or even just in a church choir or something like that. Yeah.
Well, I definitely did the church choirs growing up. We have video of me when I was like 5 years old, doing the church nativity scenes and all. And my mom said she recognized the fact that I could sing for the first time when I was probably about 6 or 7.
Okay.
And she heard me sing a Dolly Parton song. And she thought, oh my gosh, my kid can sing. So, yeah, thanks Dolly Parton.
Okay. So, you started singing, say, in churches and stuff. Did you get into any theater, junior high, high school?
I did. I'm real lucky to have grown up in Huntsville with the university there. And we have a really great summer theater program. And so my mom would put me in that every summer. So I got to do theater as a small child with kids of all ages, up to college age. And the director was one of the directors at the college, Mary McIntyre. So she was fantastic. And then from that, I did, little things in junior high. And once I got into high school, I think I missed maybe one show in the 4 years.
Yeah. So what's some of these shows?
Annie was my first musical in high school.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I loved it. I dove right in and, got a small part as a Boylan sister.
Right.
And then anytime there was an open spot for someone that needed to sing this little line, but my hand went up first. So we did that, and then my favorite musical in high school was this The Secret Garden.
Really?
Really difficult music, really intricate songs, and that was in my senior year. So started off with Annie as a freshman, and moved up throughout the years, did all the shows, and we ended with Secret Garden in high school. And I loved that one. It was just a lot of fun. And then I actually went on to go to Texas A&M, and I was a theater major there.
Why Texas A&M? Because you don't usually think of, I went to A&M too, but you don't think of A&M usually as a theater program.
I started out as a food science and technology major. My sister had gone to A&M. My brother-in-law was there as well. So it was kind of in the family already. I loved the school, loved the traditions and all. And, it was a good fit for me. I didn't know I was going to go into theater, as my degree, but that's just how the cards fell. And I actually had a really, really great opportunities while I was in College Station. Yeah, that was the first place that I got to sing with a live band.
At College Station?
Yeah.
Not at the Hall of Shame by any chance?
No, not at the Hall of Shame. We actually played a whole lot at Fitzwillies, which is one of the one local bars there. And I actually was too young to be really in the bars and drinking and all of that.
But you could still sing.
But I could still sing there, so.
You know who said that too? It's Caleb.
Yeah.
Caleb said that in high school. He was old enough to play in the piano bar, but not enough to drink.
Yeah, but you couldn't drink. So, yeah, but it was a really amazing introduction to live music, live on stage with a band and whatnot. I really got my feet wet.
So you didn't do when you were doing the high school musicals, let's say like Annie, that wasn't a live band?
It was a live piano.
Live piano,
we had one pianist with us, and so there was lots and lots of rehearsal with the piano player and choir director and whatnot. Very different than live on
Right.
stage with a full band. You never
Sure.
know what's going to happen.
Sure. Well, it's interesting because at A&M, especially during the college years, they probably wanted to do edgier stuff and not necessarily musical. So, what are some of the things you did while you were at A&M?
Let's see. I would say my favorite one was a play called Cry Havoc.
Okay.
And it was about women who were in World War II.
Okay.
So it was all about, what they went through and, dealing with just the everyday life of women in World War II.
Okay.
It's really interesting. So I would say that was one of the more deep,
right?
One of the deeper shows we did.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, in college, anytime you do Shakespeare, you can't just do straight Shakespeare.
No, you have to change it somehow, right?
Yeah, Shakespeare was always, twisted in some way or another. So there was a couple of really interesting Shakespeare plays, Twelfth Night,
of course, yeah.
and with characters that were just set in different time periods,
sure.
that kind of thing. So that was interesting.
So you finished your degree at A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Then what? Did you decide you wanted to go on for a graduate degree, or no? I've had enough of this. I'm ready to work.
I took a year off and I went to Austin.
Okay.
Austin is kind of the Texas mecca of art.
Sure.
Know. So I moved to Austin for a year. I auditioned, and it was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can walk into any audition anywhere nowadays, and it doesn't faze me.
Mm-hmm.
So many people get nervous and don't know what to do with auditions, and well, that's your job. You got to be able to audition to get the role.
Right.
So I was really lucky in that year that there were plays being done, there were student films being made, there were musicals being done, there was just all of this art going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably auditioned at least 5 times a week.
Wow. So it was everything. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
A stage, film, whatever.
It didn't matter what it was. And I realized that with that, I was getting so many opportunities to put my face in front of different directors.
Sure.
Different musical directors, everybody that, it was going to be good for me one way or the other. And of course then, got some work out of it too, which was nice.
Course, yeah.
But just having the opportunity to audition so often completely took away any kind of jitters that I would have had from then on out. And nowadays auditioning is just cake. It's just part of the job.
So about the music scene, because Austin and College Station, besides the rivalry that's been on for such a long time, I mean that's a very different scene, right?
Oh,
the music scene, the whole bit. I mean, even independent films, I understand that's big too in Austin
there was
as well.
a lot of independent films going on, absolutely, and that was part of the auditioning process as well. And I got to work with some artists who were in Austin and making their CDs and doing this and that. So I got to sing on a couple of different albums that were being produced at the time, and met lots of artists, lots of jam sessions, that kind of thing. I was still working with my band in College Station at the time.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So we played some in Austin and back and forth, but the drive made it pretty difficult. So it was kind of a transition year for bands as well. So as far as that goes.
You did this for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So what changed? I mean, it sounded like you had a pretty decent life. So what happened after a year?
I got into graduate school at U of H.
So you wanted to go.
Yeah.
You've been thinking about this. You don't just happen to go to grad school, right?
No,
so.
I took that year off to also to audition for graduate schools.
Right.
And got into U of H and was really interested in their program because Stuart Ostro was there. And Stuart Ostro is a Broadway producer.
Okay.
And he taught these classes at U of H that were not offered anywhere else in the U.S. He took what he knew about producing in the many years that he had been on Broadway, and he created classes. One was called the Musical Theater Collaboration Class, where he put groups together, and we had a director, producer, writer, a score writer, and we all created 45 minutes of a musical within one semester. And so I took that class 3 times. It was
probably different each time. All the horror stories.
Absolutely.
So that's why you got, because when I see you have a master's, it's in production, which is on, when we talked to some other folks, they said there was a time there really wasn't specialization. They said or at least at the BS levels, they said you got a degree in theater.
Yeah.
But it seems like now kids seem to, I call it kids, get more of this specialization. So they make you
Right.
special in directing, special,
Right.
and I hadn't seen the production run. So that's an interesting.
Yeah, I focused on becoming a producer and learning what that was all about, and that side of the theater. While at the same time, of course, being in the theater department, we had to do shows. And
Absolutely,
we're performing and doing all that as well.
Right.
But yeah, that's the reason that I went to U of H, was that they were offering something different than any other university around. And from that experience, I worked with 3 different groups over the years, and we created the beginnings of 3 different musicals. Okay. One of which has gone on to have a life of its own now. We finished it up. It's a musical called Nicholas and Alexandra.
Okay. Yes.
And it's about the Romanov family.
Okay.
All of that Rasputin,
right.
the Romanovs, blah blah blah. So it's a very dramatic piece.
Sounds Russian. Sounds like Chekhov.
Russian, exactly.
Tragic.
It's huge, swelling songs, and it was just wonderful to get to be a part of that. Right. And the man who wrote the score for that has since gone on to live in New York, and that play is having a life of its own.
Yes.
We're up there now, so yeah, it was a really, really neat experience, and made me realize just how much you could create.
Right.
A group of 5 people sitting down together, putting their heads together,
right.
really collaborating. A lot of people like to go off and write on their own, or they have an idea and they never share it with other people,
right.
and it never happens.
Right.
This was all about learning to be a cohesive group, and learning to collaborate, and learning that your idea may not be the best idea in the group, and that's okay.
Right.
And because of that, and because I felt very strongly about that everyone's ideas were worth listening to, and we would all collaborate. Each year we came out with a really nice product. It is a process. As Mr. Oster always said, he said, musicals are not written, they're rewritten.
Again.
And it's the case. A musical is never really perfect.
Right.
Even nowadays, a Broadway musical will have an out-of-town opening.
Yes.
Why do they have out-of-town openings? Because they don't want the whole world to see it, and they don't want the critics to come and tear it apart before it's really ready.
Right.
So, and you have to have an audience and actually put it on its feet before you really know if the show's going to fly or not.
Right.
The audience is always the last character in the show. They're gonna feed back. They're gonna give you the energy and show you where the laughs are and what flopped and what was great.
Well, let's talk about Shoot to Kill Productions. When did you decide to form your production company?
Let's see. It's been about 4 years ago now.
Okay.
This is my husband Jason and I. We have a company. He and I worked together out at the Texas Renaissance Festival. Okay. And from there, we got into doing events for corporate and private companies. Sure. So, and it's really interesting because you take all of your theater skills, all of your improvisation skills, everything that you learned on the stage, and you take the stage away. And then you act as these characters, sitting right here close as you and I with your audience. Right. And it's got to be a really big thing with the corporate and private events. Everybody wants a saloon girl at their Western barbecue. Right. Right. So from there on, we were working in Houston with a couple of different companies that did this, and now we live in Conroe, and we're doing this on our own. So we specialize in sending out entertainment for, adults parties, children's parties, you name it. But it's very different than coming to see a show on the stage. Right. This is having the show come to you. Right. So how do you get the feel for these places, or does that really matter to you? I mean, it must matter, so, It does matter. It helps a lot if they have the decor match whatever your character theme may be. Right. And most of the time, that's how people decide what character they're going to have. Right. Like I said, in Houston, it's very popular to have a Western-themed event. We serve barbecue. They set up the chuck wagons, and we bring in the cowboys and the saloon girls. Right. That kind of thing. A lot of times, of course, being close to the Gulf,
Right.
It'll be an ocean theme. Well, we bring in the mermaids, and they supply the backdrop and whatever.
Okay, so somewhat common themes have helped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the most unusual theme that someone's asked for? Come on, there has to be one.
Saturday Night Live. I think that was probably the most unusual. We had cone heads.
Oh my God. They wanted cone heads.
They wanted cone heads. Yes, that was fun. We've done some really interesting out there things. A couple that were just kind of Cirque du Soleil style, and they just said, "Create something for us," So
Carte blanche. Do something.
You end up with one of crazy characters on stilts. We did one that was based on the 7 deadly sins.
Okay.
That one caught me up for a while. I was designing that, and I said, okay, well, let's start doing some research online. I found out that each of the 7 deadly sins had a color scheme attached to them.
Yeah.
So I started with that. Okay, let's go look for costumes and whatnot, and then kind of went from there. So, of course, Pride. Yes. She had her beautiful ball gown and her mirror with her the whole time. And she looked at herself in the mirror all night long. And, Sloth, well, that's a really difficult character to play. When, all of these people you're interacting with, you don't want to turn them off.
That's right.
You have to find some way to make that character entertaining and likable.
Right.
So, every one of our actors that we use to do these types of performances have had some kind of interactive training. Right. So they understand, even though I may be playing an evil character or a nasty character, they have to find something about that still makes it entertaining.
And likable,
yes. Because
somebody
people are having dinner, you don't want to completely
throw off
dinner.
Talk about Always Patsy Cline. How did you get into Always Patsy Cline?
Oh, I was doing a show at Stages Theater.
Yes.
And they have 2 theaters, 2 small theaters in their building. Well, next door was Always Patsy Cline going on. So gotten to know the 2 women that were doing the show at the time, and great people. And, well, our performance had to be canceled one night because one of the lead actresses was just too sick to get up out of bed. So we were all there already. My mom and dad had just happened to come see that night's performance. So I said, well, let's go see Patsy Cline next door. It's about to start too. And I loved it. Oh, I just fell in love with the show.
When was this?
2002. 2000.
Oh, 2000.
2002.
Oh, okay.
It was 2002. And so I saw the show, loved it. And I said, as soon as I see that audition again, I'm going to go.
Right.
Anywhere I see an audition, I just want to do this show. So sure enough, a couple months later, it came up at College of the Mainland in Texas City. Okay. So I went down and auditioned for that and got the role and just had a fantastic time with it. The director was a great director, Mark Adams. And, I had a really good time. And I realized at the time that, wow, I have a voice quality very similar to Patsy Cline. I have a low register, a really strong belt, and I listened to enough country music throughout the years that I really understood the nuances in the songs and how to make that happen. A lot of people, when they sing Patsy Cline, they just think, let's just put some Texas twang in it. Right. Well, that's not how she sang. There was a lot of nuances to it and very distinct things that she did with her voice.
So the first time you did this was with College of the Mainland.
Yeah, okay. So I started at College of the Mainland, and from there, the story gets really interesting because I found out that a good friend of mine who I was doing school performances with was taking the show to Ireland.
Okay, so this is the second time.
Yes, this is the second time. So I said, well, who are you taking as your understudy? And she said, I don't think we have an understudy. Well, the director of this performance going to Ireland was a friend of mine who I'd gone to U of H with. Right. So I called up Scotty and I started talking to him. I said, well, who are you taking for your understudy? I know you've got your Patsy and your Louise already. And he said, Mary, I hadn't even thought of that. Right. And I said, well, Scotty, I've done the Patsy role before. I can do the Louise role. I can do costumes. I'm a costumer. I can do wigs. I can do all these different things. You need to take me with you to Ireland. Yes. And he said, oh my gosh, you are right. You can be my backstage person. You can be in charge of all the costumes and the wigs. And if something happens, you can take over for Patsy or for Louise. So that's exactly what happened. We went to Dublin, Ireland with it and spent 2 months there. And, everybody in Ireland just loved it. They love country music.
Really? They're country music?
Yeah. A little more on the outskirts than, say, in Dublin, the big city.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like Houston. It's a big melting pot.
Sure.
But we did a little radio tour of some of the outer line cities, and they just ate it up. So.
Well, that's interesting, because I just talked to someone else, and she's from Ireland. She loves Ireland. And we were talking about the differences of Irish theater and American theater. And the Irish theater seems like it's more European in the sense that they love issues.
Yes.
I'm not saying they don't like that fun, but they like that theater that's more issues oriented. And they don't get it because we're really more about entertainment.
Right.
Did you get a chance to see theater?
I did get a chance to see some, and it was just fantastic. It was spectacular theater. You could tell that the actors really took their jobs very seriously, and they were great at what they did, and they weren't afraid to, I won't say shock the audience, but get so close to the line and just step a toe over the line.
That's interesting.
It was great fun.
How interesting.
Yeah.
So this is time 2 for Patsy Cline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's the time 3? The third time you got to do it.
Conroe, here at the Crighton Theater with Jean and Betty Wolfe.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then from there, I produced it myself twice. No, I'm sorry. There was one time in Huntsville before that.
Margie, yes.
Huntsville with Margie.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
We went to Huntsville first, and then with Jean Wolfe.
Okay.
And then I produced it myself in Magnolia.
So that was time 5.
And in Huntsville.
Okay. 5, 6. Yeah, right.
And then we came back to the Crighton with stage
time 7.
right.
That's time 7.
Which was the biggest bang of all. That was
it was pretty incredible.
It's one of the most produced shows in the U.S. right now.
I'm sure it is.
It's just people just keep coming back to see it again and again and again. They love it.
So then when you did it back just recently in June 2012, that was the 8th time. Then.
That was the 8th.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I missed a few times.
8th performance, So I've been doing a lot of Patsy Cline recently, and it's been good. It's been good for me. She's treated me very well. I've gotten to do a couple of private engagements as Patsy Cline as well, and whatnot. So getting a bit of a Patsy Cline following around the area.
Is there anything about getting into the character of Patsy Cline other than just singing the songs that have changed you or touched you in some way?
Well, yeah, I think because she was just such a real down-to-earth person. And I always have to be careful on stage to remember that, this is not a big, huge star. This is not someone who thinks of themselves as a big, huge star. She never did. She was just glad to be singing. Mm-hmm. She was glad to be alive and on stage and singing for people. Yes. So, she was very much just a down-home gal. Mm-hmm. And just like the show says, she met a friend and made a friend for life. Mm-hmm. So it's a great role to get to play, even though there's very little time that Patsy actually talks on stage. The majority of it is singing. Right. So most of my preparations for the show was watching her videos, any video that is available out there of her, and listening. And what was so good about having some videos of her is that I could watch and see how she formed her vowels, how she moved her jaw, the things, how she breathed, where did she take a breath here, what did she really do, and then also just to see, was she stiff on stage, was she relaxed, what, and actually I did that was where I took a little bit of liberties with her, because when you see her, for instance, on some of the Grand Ole Opry, the tapes, she seems very stiff. Like
really?
She knows she's being videoed. Maybe she wasn't quite sure what to do with her body. And some of them are very young videos of her as well. So, and I can relate to that as a young performer on stage with a band. I had no idea what to do with my arms and, how do I move? This looks stupid. I'll just stand still. And that looks silly too. So, you end up finding a nice balance of should I move? How do I move, and what looks natural?
Right.
So that was the only place where I really, took a little bit of liberties, because, if I'm up there singing songs, 20 plus songs in a show, it's got to be interesting to look at as well.
Right.
You can't just rely on the voice the whole time.
Right.
So,
Any shows that you want to do?
Evita.
Evita.
Since I was about 12,
Really?
I think I wanted to do that
Evita.
show.
Oh my goodness.
Just great music. It's just
Any other things? I mean, you sing Wicked, right?
yeah, absolutely. That's one of the characters that I've actually gotten to play because I do the corporate theater.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of when the movie, or when the show first came out, it was a very popular one too. So I actually have gotten to sing the Glinda role and the Elphaba role, just for different little things here and there.
Right.
So that's fun. And I would say my all-time favorite musical that I've never gotten to perform, Man of La Mancha.
Man of La Mancha?
Oh,
really?
I love it. I've seen it so many times. I love it, and I cry every time.
How about
I think it's a great thing about live theater. It's okay to sit there and cry. Somebody else around you is crying too. So.
It's permission to cry.
Yeah. If I think about it long enough, the list goes on and on. Rent, and there's a bunch of them in there, but I'm not stopping anytime soon. So.
Your daughter, Calliope, right?
Mm-hmm, Calliope.
Does she sing?
She does. She
has her mom in her?
Storm. Yeah. Well, the first time that she was on the stage, with me, she was 4 months old when we did the Patsy Cline show in Magnolia. Mm-hmm. So she's been hearing me sing since before she was born. Now when I get into costume and all, she calls me Mama Patsy. That's Mama Patsy. She makes a distinction between the two, but she understands that's still Mama up there singing. And yeah, her favorite song right now is from the Muppet movie.
Oh, really? The recent one?
Yeah, the most recent one. She sings the "Life's a Happy Song" and "Rockin' Robin."
Rockin' Robin.
Yeah, that was her first karaoke song ever. She did karaoke with me to "Rockin' Robin," and she sang the "Tweet Tweet Tweeties."
Oh dear.
Yeah, she's quite a performer. Definitely got it in her blood.
She's going to be working into the company here.
Yeah,
I can see
think
it.
so.
Well, if heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get to the pearly gates?
You were right.
Oh, by the way, we have an opening. Our Patsy lost her voice, and we need you to take her place. Of course, Patsy might be up there. It's like, no, wait a minute.
that would be the other nice thing for Patsy to say, "Good job, Mary.
Good job.
You did well. You did well." Yeah, I think I'll be hanging up my Patsy shoes for a little while now. 8 performances of it. I think that's enough for a little while. It's time to move on and hand it over to somebody else for a while.
Like I said, there are plenty of, like I said, other musicals to explore.
Yes, absolutely. Some new avenues out there now.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining.